look at one of the most famous jazz chord substitution sequences, the Coltrane Changes. One of the coolest chord sequences in jazz, the Coltrane Changes are actually based on an older harmonic idea known as the three-tonic system. More about this in a moment. Saxophone legend John Coltrane became fascinated with the three-tonic system and adopted it into a number of his own compositions, alongside applying it to a number of well-known jazz standards too. Because of his extensive use of this technique, it became known in jazz as the Coltrane Changes, or Coltrane Matrix. The most famous example of this is on his recording Giant Steps from 1959. Here's the lead sheet. Notice how there are only 3 recurring major 7, or root chords, and each of these tonal centers has either a 5-7 or a 2-5 before it. Here, a B major 7. Here, a G major 7. And here, an E flat major 7. This tune is a classic and well worth finding and listening to, the original recording. Let's look at the three-tonic matrix. First of all, we need to think of all cadences in a tonal center as a way of getting back home, or to the root. As you now know, most standards have tonal centers which, in turn, have a set of diatonic chords leading to them. Let's use our old friend, the cycle of fourths, to illustrate this point. So imagine C major is our tonal center. This is our root chord, or our home, a C major 7. The normal way to get back home is via a 2-5-1. However, you could also go home via a tritone substitution, like this. Or perhaps you could try a backdoor substitution, like this. All these sequences, and many others, lead back home to our root chord, C major 7. By the late 1950s, John Coltrane had mastered the ideas behind 2-5-1 harmony and also many of the various chord subs that were associated with them. So he began experimenting with a new way of getting home, the three-tonic system. The three-tonic system works like this. You move away from your starting note in a pattern of major thirds, either up or down, until you get back to your original starting note. Incidentally, this is also an augmented chord relationship. Let's look at how Coltrane used this idea within conventional 2-7, 5-7, 1 major 7 harmony. Here is a standard 2-5-1. The C is our home chord. The first thing we need to do is move the C major into the subsequent bar. You'll see why in a minute. We go a major third away from our home note, in this case from C natural to an E natural, and insert it into the bar before. Now we turn the E into a major 7 chord. Then we go round the sequence again, another major third interval, and we insert it here as a major 7 chord, in this case A flat major 7. The three-tonic sequence is then completed by adding the initial home chord at the start, thus giving us 3 separate major 7 chords. However, to make this sound like the Coltrane Changes, we're going to tweak the three-tonic system slightly. First up, we're going to keep the 2-7 chord from our original sequence, which also means losing our newly inserted chord in the first bar of the sequence. This works diatonically because the 2-7 chord, in this case D-7, uses the same harmony as the 1 major 7 chord. In this case, the harmony comes from C major. Then, and this is the bit that makes it the Coltrane Changes, we add the 5-7 of each of the 3 major 7 chords to complement the harmonic rhythm, like this. The changes serve as a substitute superimposed pattern for the 2-5-1 progression, and are noted for the tonally unusual root movement by major thirds. Each tonic chord in the matrix is a major third apart, giving you that augmented relationship. As mentioned earlier, Coltrane himself used the Coltrane Changes on several standards. One of his best known examples is in his tune Countdown. Countdown was based on the harmonic structure of Miles Davis's piece, Tune Up. This piece is full of 2-5-1 harmony and therefore perfect for reharmonization, which is what Coltrane did. Here's Countdown. Let's look more closely at them. Here is a comparison of the chord sequences for Tune Up and Countdown. Tune Up is on the top stave. Countdown is on the bottom stave. You can see that in Countdown, Coltrane keeps the tonal center or home key. However, he adds the Coltrane changes to each sequence. The last 4 bars are the only ones where Coltrane differs from the original harmony, with Countdown finishing on a different tonal center, B flat major, to Tune Up. In the next video, we will start looking at slash chords and how they work with jazz standards.